What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel. On nootropics, on testosterone, on nutraceuticals, on supplements, on using whatever we can that's available to us to make us feel, perform, and function awesomely. I am your host, Ryan Michael Bell. Thanks so much for being with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of all the content I'm pushing out. Get the YouTube app so that it just notifies you on your phone when we're live or content comes out. A couple products support this broadcast. I'll explain them at the end of the broadcast, but for now, the Cortex Nootropic Stack, motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency, as well as the Torque Nootropic Stack, which is 6 to 8 hours of fire blood. If you want a lot of energy, buy either one of those stacks. Links in the description below, and I'll explain them more at the end of this video. All right, friends, so I want to do another answer to a question that came through about bromontane, but also explain just how much more powerful bromontane is than we've all been led to believe in terms of additional mechanisms. Okay, so let me get to the question first. Question goes, hey Ryan, I've been messing with bromontane. I tried sublingual and titrated up to doses as high as 650 milligrams. Brother, that is way too much bromontane, and you should never dose that much bromontane. I ordered a nasal solution. Any hopes that that'll work? Okay, so let's clear this up real quick, and then we're going to talk about bromontane and how effective it is and all this other stuff that it does. As I've always said, and you probably just haven't come across those videos, there are a few reasons why you don't respond to nootropics like everybody else does. Number one, if you think about what bromontane is doing, it is helping you synthesize more dopamine from precursor, essentially from tyrosine. And tyrosine you would get in your diet or you would supplement it. If you're not eating tyrosine-rich foods, that's probably one of the reasons you're not responding to bromontane, because you actually have no raw building blocks, at least at high levels, to synthesize dopamine. That's what bromontane does. It fosters the expression of tyrosine hydroxylase and dopa decarboxylase. These are enzymes that convert the building blocks to dopamine to L-dopa, then from L-dopa to dopamine, okay? So to make that clear, if you're not responding to bromontane, it may be that you need to either take some tyrosine or even take some mucuna, because then you're one step ahead in that process in the L-dopa, which will then get synthesized into actual dopamine. But at the same time, it may be the case that, bromontane is an actoprotector, right? Meaning it's essentially a neurological adaptogen in that it will tone down some of that excessive central nervous system activity in response to like high levels of stress. So it may just be the case for you that, you know, the way that it's responding is not so much on the making you make more dopamine side and giving you energy, but like you may already have a good degree of brain energy as it is. And so it's kind of acting as an actoprotector instead and making you less stressed. That's one reason it could be not producing a substantial effect for you. You know, if you have a less stressed person who is kind of lacking energy and lacking brain function, bromontane tends to be very effective for them. At the same time, as I've always said, you've got to include context in your questions and context in your own questions about why a nootropic doesn't work. What is your diet, and specifically, what are you eating or not eating, like say you're fasting for a long period of time, that is messing with your energy? Do you have a fatigue syndrome that's either, a classified, identified, known fatigue syndrome, or you just have fatigue from something you're doing, not doing, you drink too much, you sleep like shit, your testosterone is low? All of these things, guys, let's just stop and back it up. All of that stuff plays a major role in how you respond to nootropics. Like if you're expecting bromontane to solve some issue that you need to get to the root of, biochemically, neurologically, physiologically, in terms of your health, that, is preventing you from having good energy, there's no Band-Aid for resolving your energy issues as it stands. So people think what are you even using it for? I'm going to use bromontane to help me have energy because I don't have any. You're going to want to fix the reason you don't have energy in order for bromontane to be effective. Listen, statement. Most nootropics are highly effective when your baseline is amazing. You can't just expect them to do magic on you, unless you're talking about a very potent stack that's built for producing energy for most folks under most conditions, like Torque. Okay, you should try Torque. If you're a non-responder to bromontane, just try Torque. I can almost guarantee that you're going to notice something from it, and it's going to be stimulating and energizing, and you'll have motivation. But you've got to get to the root of what's happening in your brain. In addition to those things, bromontane also has serotonergic actions, which I'm going to get to in just a second here. So, are you taking anything else that is modifying serotonin? synthesis or quantity or receptors or something. And there are plenty of compounds that do that. St. John's wort would be one of them, obviously 5-HTP. There are other adaptogens that interact with serotonin, like rhodiola rosea interacts with serotonin 1A and 2A receptors. So it's like you have to look at what else you may be taking that may be interfering with bromotane's action on serotonin, because it does have some action on serotonin as well. Have you taken in the past, like, what is your state? Have you taken an SSRI? Have you taken Vyvanse? Have you taken Adderall? Like, these things change brain chemistry in a way where you may not respond, to a dopaminergic, essentially dopaminergic compound like bromontane. So those are things to think about. Never dose bromontane in 650 milligram quantities. 20 to 80 milligrams max is where people should be. If you're not getting a response, you need to dig down into your physiology to understand why you're not getting a response. Unfortunately, folks, aside from pre-made stacks, which is why we built Cortex and Torque, if you don't want to think about this stuff and you don't want to do the hardcore neuroscience research on PubMed on your phone at 1 a.m. like I do, or other people that are into this do, then just buy Torque and or buy Cortex and just rely on pre-made stacks. Totally fine. But if you want to understand why bromontane is not affecting you the way that it affects everybody else, or the way that it should affect you, people say it should, then you must understand some of the neuroscience and the underlying physiology. Okay, so that answers the question. Moving on to a couple really interesting things about bromontane that I don't think a lot of people knew. I'm going to read a paper called The Pharmacology of Actoprotectors, Practical Application for Improvement of Mental and Physical Performance, where they discuss bromontane. Let me get down to where I was here. And I'm going to read a couple paragraphs just to give you guys some additional things that bromontane does. For those of you that are interested in trying it, or whatever, have been interested in trying it, or have it and have been using it historically or something, and you want to maybe use it again, there's a lot of other things that it does. Here we go. The mechanism of bromontane action is based on the facility to increase the activity of the lower centers of the central nervous system, i.e. the hypothalamus, the reticular nuclei of the operculum, and the hippocampus. It does not exert any expressed action on noradrenergic mediators, but implements the activation properties through the dopaminergic system, right? And so that, again, is the conversion to dopamine via the upregulation or the better fostering of the conversion enzymes. Again, it helps you take tyrosine, which is the building block to dopamine, turn it into L-DOPA, which is the next step, and then turn that L-DOPA into dopamine, which is the final steps. That's what bromontane, largely helps you to do. But also, bromontane strengthens GABAergic mediation, reducing gene expression, supervising synthesis of GABA transporters, and functioning as a return capture mediator. A potentiality for central serotonin holding effects is also assumed. I'm not even sure what central serotonin holding effects is. Potentially some sort of mild SSRI, hard to say. Never heard that term discussed in neuroscience. But if you just kind of step back a little bit, bromontane strengthens GABAergic mediation, reducing gene expression, supervising synthesis of GABA transporters. Basically what that means is it is facilitating the functioning of GABA to be inhibitory, which is what GABA does, on other neurotransmitters, excessive neurotransmitters, and usually glutamate, right? So that's why bromontane functions as an actoprotector for people, in that it will tone down anxiety. There's studies on it toning down cold exposure, stress. There's studies on it toning down the stress response from exercise. That's what actoprotectors do. And bromontane is very, very powerful for that. So for people that are in those states, perhaps bromontane would be useful in allowing them to kind of relax and chill out and cognitively thus operate better. There's other things that it does. Just in case folks are curious, bromontane stimulates the synthesis of cytochrome P450 and thus facilitates liver detox functions. That's insane. It's just a very, very powerful compound. There's one other thing I wanted to point out. So bromontane, typically for people that don't have, large scale energy issues that they need to work on, etc., and don't have some other weird neurochemistry thing going on, gives you energy, right? It's kind of like, I wouldn't call it like amphetamine-like energy, but it is stimulant-like. I take bromontane and I notice it. Within 20, 30 minutes, I'm like, wow, I'm perked up, I'm energized, my brain's working better. It's probably from the synthesis of dopamine. It lasts a long time. It gives me like the will to work. It gives me that kind of productive energy and the proclivity, if you will, to want to sit down and execute on some of the stuff that perhaps I don't want to do or that I know I should do. That's what bromontane does. And one of the interesting things in this paper about bromontane is that they revealed that it basically executes antagonism to the sedative action of tranquilizers. Like, think about that for a second, right? It's essentially ceasing the sedative action of some tranquilizers. Like, very, very powerful. So yes, it should be giving you energy. For most folks, that's how they respond to it. It just kind of gives them that motivated brain performance energy, type of brain state. But again, so those are all the really cool things about bromontane. The stuff is incredible. And in this study, they even go as far as to say it largely is absent of side effects, which is incredible. Like, if you wanted a super nootropic, just use bromontane. The topic of this video is the question of a guy not responding. He's in the rare sort of subset of people that don't respond to bromontane for particular reasons. Okay, so bromontane is an absolute super nootropic, and the stuff is amazing. I've been using it, semi-frequently. I use it in the morning sometimes just to get that extra jump for the gym. Sometimes 4 or 5 p.m. I'll use it at low doses to get some energy for the latter part of the evening. I can't take it too late at night because it has the ability, or it has before, disrupted my sleep pretty markedly. So I've got to be careful about that. But going back to the original question, look, you've got to look at what it's doing. You have to look at where your brain is. Again, if you're using it or trying to use it as a Band-Aid for like a major issue that needs to be resolved in order for you to have good energy, then bromontane is not going to do a whole lot for you, right? It's just not. And then again, secondarily, if you're not conscious of getting in tyrosine in your diet with tyrosine-rich foods, again, this is the building block to dopamine, and bromontane acts as a mediator to help you synthesize that building block into dopamine. Well, then you're not going to have a potent dopaminergic stimulated effect from bromontane. You're just not. And then, of course, if you have an energy issue, get to the bottom of it, and I guarantee bromontane will more than likely give you a stimulant effect at that point, okay? So let's see. Matthew R., thank you so much for the question. Some food for thought. Please think about it. The rest of you that are watching this video, bromontane is an excellent nootropic compound. I take it, again, semi-frequently. It always gives me a marked stimulation on top of my baseline to do work that, whatever work it is, I'm more interested in doing it with bromontane. I also do notice a little bit of stress relief, a little bit of that active protector stuff, but for me, largely, it just gives me that fire blood energy that I really, really like. So, and my dose at this point is 20 to 40 milligrams. It depends on the day, it depends on the time that I take it, but kind of that's where I stay. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that's been useful, informative, educational for those of you folks that are interested in nootropics and using them for different reasons and or may not be responding to bromontane. You've got to think about those reasons why and understand some of the neurophysiology behind this and not just expect to take X chemical and solve all of your problems. You've got to think about it scientifically and you've got to think about it practically, my friends. Again, what I said in the beginning is there are a couple products that support this broadcast and they are outstanding. Look, if you don't want to go through what's going to be years, right, and countless hours studying neuroscience as well as the pharmacology of nootropic agents to affect brain chemistry, then just take pre-made stacks. And we built 2 awesome ones that for most folks are exceptionally effective. In fact, Torque, it's like I've yet to have, with the exception of a couple people, a person say, look, I'm a non-responder to it. Almost everybody is like, this stuff is amazing. We'll talk about that in a second. Cortex stack is awesome too. Motivation, mental energy, dopamine energy, dopamine receptor optimization, neurogenesis. These are the things that Cortex is doing. It translates to motivation, verbal fluency, brain fluidity. If you just want your brain to clear fog and function well, buy Cortex, my friends. Link is in the description below. It's been on the market for 8 years. I built it myself. It was a stack that I was using, which was comparable to modafinil. I wanted an alternative back then. And then I turned it into a pre-made stack. It's called Cortex. Get it below, down in the description. Secondarily, yes, Torque. The reason it's the most purchased nootropic stack on the web is because people realize that 5-6 days a week, they can take 2 capsules and it lights their brain up. Suddenly they have energy to do things, the motivation to execute on a side hustle or work or get promoted or be back into that zest of life. Friends, nootropics, if all else is correct and if the nootropics are put together well, They help you to do better in life. I mean, that's what this is all about. We're not just taking them to have some oddly stimulatory state. We want to function better. We want to be productive. We want to execute more on the things that need our attention. Torque helps you do that better on top of being a between 6 and 8 hour powerful energy and motivation clean stimulant. I've said enough. Buy it at livecortex.com or down in the description below. There's a link if you want to save some money on either one or both of our products. Use the coupon code 15NOW at livecortex.com. If you need my help on synthesizing your nootropic regimen, on helping you to get to the bottom of why your energy is failing you, my sole mission as far as consulting goes and what I like to do and what I am one of the world's foremost experts in doing is making people function cognitively at extremely high levels, right? I got into this stuff when I was very young, just post the United States Army. And I've been working on all of this for 16, 17 years. I have consulted famous actors, pro football players, other pro sports players, well-known business leaders around the world using nootropics, nutraceuticals, and in some cases, whatever we have available to us to make them feel, perform, and function at 150, 180% quantifiably. So hire me if you would like me to do that with you and you want to work with me. We've got programs, 3-month program, 6-month program. We also have an annual program. If you want to work on the annual program and save a lot of money, please email me, Ryan at livecortex.com, and I'll get you a custom invoice for an entire year of working together. For those of you that have the budget, pull the trigger on the year mark. That option will be available on the consulting page here in a brief period. But otherwise, you can email me and we'll get it squared away. Thank you so much for being with me, everybody. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you and talking with you. And I'll talk to you next time.